Folks, I finished the Black Prism, book 1 in the Lightbringer series by Brent. Let's talk about it. As usual, this will be basically spoiler-free, so fret not. So I got this via Libby loan, and I felt like I struggled with it. It took me about 2 weeks to read it. That is way above average for a book of this length for me, considering my recent performance with other much larger books. This book is written in third-person limited, and there are a number of viewpoint characters, one of which is Gavin, the Prism himself, who has special magical powers, and the magic system, which I'll talk about in a minute, is pretty interesting in these books. Unfortunately, none of the other characters whose viewpoints we get to see are nearly as interesting as Gavin, and in particular Kip, who is probably supposed to end up being the lead character at some point, is deeply, deeply uninteresting and kind of a moron. I have a low tolerance for morons in both real life and fiction. The setting is pretty thinly drawn. There are 7 satrapies, which are governed by a color-based council called the Chromaria, that derives its power from the magic system present in this world, which is based on the different colors of light. Different users of this magic have abilities in different colors of magic, and if you can use more than one color of magic, that's a huge advantage in your favor. Only the Prism can use all the colors of magic. Now, while this is super interesting, and there are some intriguing teasers for how this might develop in future books, ultimately what you do with this magic system is make things. You make machines or objects or whatever, so all of the magic users kind of feel like Green Lantern. And I felt like that was indicative of the magic system not being as well thought through as it could be, even though the basic idea is really pretty cool. The chapters are pretty short, which I liked because it enabled it to be pretty digestible, and I kept making progress. I never actually stalled out on this book. But despite that, the book does have some pacing issues. There's a big stretch of the book where not enough is happening, and you are laden with the less interesting viewpoint characters. Kip in particular. I don't think Kip's motivations or internal voice really hold together, and in general, sort of Brent Weeks's voice as the narrator of this story, I didn't think it was as strong as it could have been, but his prose is fine. There's really nothing wrong with it. Combined with the pacing problem and relative lack of characters that I could actually engage with, is what made this kind of a slog for me. The book is not terrible, and one can definitely see potential here that might emerge out of future books, but I wasn't thrilled with it. There are a couple of twists in the plot which threaten at times to make it interesting, and indeed, a couple of the things going on are interesting. The pacing just doesn't really do all it can to support the plot. As an aside, I'm starting to be annoyed by the process of Libby because, while it's a cool service, I keep getting, Libby loans coming through, and I have a day or two to take the book where I'm already reading something else, so I have to hop from what I am reading to whatever the Libby loan is, and that's kind of annoying. At this point, I think I would just rather buy the ebooks on my own. At the end of the day, I thought this was a decent book. I was absolutely not blown away by it. I may or may not continue the series, which is 4 books. The next book is The Blinding Knife, but I don't feel like I'm in any enormous rush to continue this series. I might well, but I've got other stuff that's a much higher priority to read right now. There are a couple of twists and turns that happen here. By and large, I don't feel like they feel earned. That is a tiny frog.